issue would come up, I would feel like, oh, well, people are being oppressed here. People shouldn't be oppressed. If democracy is going to be real, then we need to end oppression. So I was involved in the movement. Back then it was called gay rights, now it's expanded, but called gay rights. I was involved before I knew about my own self, really. And I was being a support to a younger sister, my sister Sonia, in her coming out process. And I was, playing the women's music with her, and we were reading, telling her, oh, these are great books, that kind of thing. And her conversation, she really blazed the trail in the family, came out first. And then when I started realizing it about myself,
How old were you?
Let's see, I was already 29, so it was later, and everyone's story is different. I had a activist boyfriend who I'd been with for 6 years. He was very involved he was from Boston. He moved back with me, very involved in the movement himself. And so when I became aware of, my own sexuality, I guess, I remember at first feeling like, okay, but how does this fit in this work I'm doing? And I remember being really nervous because I was worried that people who saw me as this, social justice activist would suddenly see me only as the gay person, that everything else would go away because the homophobia was so intense back then. But I also felt like, if people in the movement are also my family, then I have a coming out process in the movement. And I'll never forget where I came out in the movement was we had taken several carloads of our to the Rainbow Convention in North Carolina. This is in, oh my gosh, let's see. It was the second Jesse Jackson run, so 87, I think, leading into 88. And so we went to the Rainbow Coalition, a multiracial group of us that went.
From Louisville.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
And the same weekend, there was a national march for lesbian and gay rights in Washington, D.C. And I wanted to be both places. I wanted to be at the Rainbow Coalition Conference, and I wanted to be at the National March, and I was very torn. And some people said, what the news that came out was, that Reverend Jesse Jackson was going to speak to the National Lesbian and Gay March, the first presidential candidate to ever do so. And so some of the folks from the convention were like, well, we want to go there and see that too. So I remember Betty Payne, who was a dear friend of mine, Head Start teacher, taught me so much about just being real across the color lines.
Authentic. Mm-hmm.
Yes, being authentic. And at a certain point that weekend, she said, okay, come on, Carla. You know you want to go to that march, and I support you going. And I said, Betty? And she goes, come on, Carla. And it's like she already knew, but she was kind of saying to me, I don't care, I love you, and you're the same Carla yesterday as you are today. And I realized, why was I doubting anybody? So I kind of realized that it was my own internalized homophobia, so to speak, that was keeping me from sharing that part of myself. I didn't want to just become the gay person. I wanted to be my whole self and the person
Who was the first person you told?
The first person I told, that was probably my sister Sonia. Yeah, because I had been there for her in her journey. And I was real nervous telling my father, not because I thought he would reject me. I thought that he would be worried for me. And when I told him, I remember driving out there to Prospect. I was living in Louisville then. I was so nervous. I just said, Daddy, there's something I need to talk to you about. And I said, so, I think I love women. And his first thing was, he said, are you happy? And I said, yeah, I'm really happy. And he said, then I'm happy for you. And and then he became one of the staunchest supporters of fairness. I remember he had just had eye surgery for cataracts. Come out of the hospital that day, had a big old wad of cotton on his eye.